ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Colts, Vikings, NFL, do me a huge solid. Never do this again. I don't know what game, okay? I don't know what game was here first, okay? I think it was Jaguars, Eagles. I'm not sure, right? I don't know what game was here first, but never do this again, right? Don't take a game that we think is going to stink and replace it with a game that's even worse. Nobody, and I mean nobody, asked for this, okay? Nobody said, hey, you know what I want to watch? The Indianapolis Colts and the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Joe Flacco versus Sam Darnold. Two backup quarterbacks battling it out. Yeah, that'll cap my Sunday night off the right way. Nobody said that. This game was awful. Never do this again. If you don't have a real game to flex into the spot, just leave it as is. You know what? Eagles, Jags turned out to be damn good. I would have rather watched Trevor Lawrence choke it away late than this bullshit. So please do me a favor. And I remember when we found out who they were flexing in, we get, wait, whose bright idea was this? Who thought that this was a great idea? Who looked around and said, you know what would be a compelling Sunday Night Football matchup? Even if Anthony Richardson were playing, this was not going to be good. Never do this again. Signed, yours truly, Louie T. P.S. I speak for everyone when I say this. Thanks. That said, 5 turnovers in this game. 5 turnovers in this game. We had no offensive touchdowns in the first half. It was 7-0, and the only touchdown was a defensive score. Never do this again. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, the Vikings prevailed 21-13. Sam Darnold threw 3 touchdown passes to overcome the 3 turnovers he had in this game. I started to pat Sam on the back. Remember on Thursday Night Football when they played the Rams, and I said, you know what? Maybe Sam Darnold is just going to have one of those Case Keenum seasons, from 2017. Maybe that's just going to happen this year. And I can just stop waiting for the Sam Darnold who F's things up to show up. Maybe that guy isn't coming. Tonight was that guy. 2 interceptions. One of them was bad. Right? A fumble that goes for a touchdown, the scoop and score. 3 turnovers he accounted for tonight. Lucky enough for him, the Indianapolis Colts were just as bad. And as somebody in the comment section said, Joe Flacco is allergic to checkdowns. You, sir, my friend, are correct. Joseph has not met a check down that he's liked yet, because on one of the most crucial downs of the game, down 14-10, Joseph had a chance to check it down to Trey Sermon in the flats on a 3rd and let's call it 5. Trey Sermon is all alone in the right flats with about 8 yards of space between he and the nearest Vikings defender. And Joe goes, no, I will not take the check down, or my name isn't Joseph R. Flacco. I'm going to throw it into double coverage and almost get my receiver decapitated and almost throw my second interception of the night. Third turnover for us tonight. I'm going to try my hardest to throw that interception. Good job, Joseph. Good job. Got to give credit to the Vikings defensively. Got to give credit to the Colts defensively. Both defenses played really well tonight. Gus Bradley's group was out there flying around, making plays. We know what the Vikings defense has done this season, and how Brian Flores has kind of taken that group and made them into one of the best in the league. And so I thought both defenses were on display tonight. The offenses left a lot to be desired, but when Minnesota needed their offense the most, they stepped up and they made the plays that needed to be made. How about that gutsy call? You're up 14-10. You've got the Indianapolis Colts on the ropes. And the easy thing to do is to just run the football, make them use their timeouts. You can pretty much put them in a position where they're not going to see this football with very much time, no timeouts, and they're going to have to go the length of the field, something they haven't been able to do all night long. And instead, Kevin O'Connell on second down went for the jugular. My guy. With Sam Darnold, who's already thrown 2 picks tonight, one in the end zone on the opening possession. Are you sure? Are you sure you really want to do this? And he's like, I think so. What the hell? Why not? My kicker can barely move. I'm scared that if I send him out there, his leg might completely seize up and we may not make the field goal anyway. What the hell? Let's just go for it. What would he have to lose, right? Only the game. Only the game. But Sam Darnold came through like he's done for much of the season. Throws the touchdown pass to Josh Oliver, and that was all she wrote pretty much at that point. Big play there. Great play call, right? Because the entire stadium expected run there, including the Indianapolis Colts. They sold out for run. They got play action boot and got the throw to the tight end. And that's a great call to put it away. Like, let's not leave this to chance. A lot of wacky things had happened already on the night. Let's not leave it to chance. Your kicker is struggling, right? He hadn't missed all year long. He missed 2 kicks already. And he's got something going on. Looked like his, hamstring or something's tightening up on him. He can't even put any weight really on his, kicking foot. Essentially, that thing swings in the air and then he doesn't put it back on the ground. So let's just go for the win. And they did. Good for them. It's crazy. Darnold, you look at his numbers, he only had 6 incompletions, right? Almost threw for 300 yards. But, of the 6 incompletions, 2 went to the wrong team. And they were big ones. And there was a fumble in there. So even when you think about how well he played tonight, and there were some dimes in there. That one down inside the 10 to Justin Jefferson. That's a big play, man. It's a beautiful throw. But I think they're going to be just fine. They're going to be just fine. And even though there were, a lot of turnovers in this game, 3, right? You're not going to win many games being -1 in the plus-minus category and turnovers and turning it over 3 times in the game total. 1 being scooped and scored with, right? Not going to win very many games doing that. You had the right opponent. You had the right opponent to get away with that tonight. But I don't think he is going to be the reason the Vikings don't, succeed this season. I actually think when it's all said and done, it might end up being their defense that it ends up being the issue. Here's why I say that. When you look at the Vikings and how this team is set up, right now they rely very heavily on their defense. So you start getting into this mindset of, oh, the defense will handle it. We just need to score X amount of points and the defense will win us the game. And when you play the likes of Tennessee and Indianapolis and Jacksonville and the Jets, you start to get into this mindset of, oh, 23 points should be enough to win us the game tonight. The defense will handle the rest. And they've done that for the most part this season. But what happened against Green Bay, for instance, where you jumped out to this massive lead and then you had to hold on for dear life late? What happened against Detroit? Jumped out to a little bit of a lead, wasn't good enough, right? And I think you fall into this trap of the defense got us. What happens like Thursday Night Football, right? The offense went out and scored 2 touchdowns in that game. Bam, bam. And what did the defense do? Gave up 2 touchdowns. Bam, bam. And it was like a shock to the senses. Like, wait a minute, wait. You guys just gave up 2 touchdowns when we scored 2 touchdowns? What are you guys doing, right? And honestly, when you've got a really good defense like the Vikings do, this is going to sound crazy, but you start to rely heavily on that defense to bail you out, like they did tonight, right? And that becomes the norm. It becomes what you're accustomed to. And you start to lean on the defense more than you probably should, and it starts to affect you. And I'm glad it didn't affect Kevin O'Connell's play calling tonight, because he could have just said, you know what? If we kick the field goal, the defense is going to make this touchdown hold up, this 7-point lead hold up, and we're going to win this game 17-10. But he didn't say, let's just put it on the defense to close the show. He said, let's win this game on offense. And that's essentially what they did. That's a good sign that he didn't fall into the trap. But I could see that being a crutch down the road and you falling into that trap. If the Vikings are going to win this season, they're going to need their offense to be more consistent. And they can't just rely on this defense to bail them out. Because guess what? You don't play Indy. You don't play Jacksonville. You don't play Tennessee. You don't play the Jets. You don't play these teams that you've played this season that have allowed you to win some of these games in the fashion that you've won them in. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and shit on the schedule that you've played, because you've beat some good teams. You beat Houston when they were at full strength. You beat San Francisco early in the season before we found out that they weren't the same 49ers. Like, you've done some good things this season. You've beat some quality opponents. So we're not going to play that game. But you did play the Giants. You did just beat the Colts. You do have the Jags and the Titans. And you've already beaten the Jets. And that was a sloppy affair as well over in London that you won because of your defense. Again, another one of those types of performances, much like tonight's game. And you can fall into the trap very easily. Oh, yeah, the defense got it. Just be careful. Going to need this offense to step up, be accountable. Going to need the special teams. And even though Will Riker has been really good this season, that's the Will Riker I remember from Alabama, the one that I saw tonight, that was capable of missing any kick. He had been on his best, absolute best behavior this season. And he was a really good kicker at Alabama. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think that he wasn't a good kicker that could be relied upon at Alabama, because he was. But I knew every now and again Will was going to shank one, or he was going to push one, or he was going to pull one. Clearly he had something going on. But at the end of the day, the Vikings were good enough to get it done tonight. And good to see TJ Hawkinson back out on the field. That's a big that's almost like making a deal at the trade deadline. That's what that feels like. If you're a Vikings fan, it felt like you just traded for TJ Hawkinson all over again. Like you did 2 years ago when you got him into Minnesota for the first time. This is what it feels like. Getting him back for the first time in Week 9 feels like a trade deadline deal. That's a huge boost to your offense. Gives you another weapon. Addison with a sick, one-handed grab for the touchdown. Between Addison, Jettas, and now getting Hawkinson back in the mix, you've got weapons. With Aaron Jones as a back who can also catch it out of the backfield, it was good to see Cam Akers show up and show out tonight. You're going to need him. He's got to stay healthy, and he can't be fumbling the damn football. But if you can get him to continue to play well, you sprinkle in a little Josh Oliver at the tight end position, and there's some stuff here, right? There's some stuff here with the Vikings. And we know that defense is really good. And they teed off on Joe Flacco late. It got pretty ugly late once they knew this game was pretty much in hand and they started getting after him. I must say that defense with Brian Flores, with guys I love how they were using Dallas Turner tonight. He was back like he was in the slot. Then he walks up and blitzes. Boy, he came off that corner flying. God, he's fast. Woo! I said, damn. Somebody got to put a finger on that fella. Because if you don't, he's coming with bad intentions. He's got so many different, players that he can move, mix, and match with. Flores is dangerous, man. He's diabolical. He's really diabolical. But when it's all said and done, going to need the offense to, one, don't turn it over. Because this defense is really good. And if you could just take care of the ball, end every possession with a kick, you should be fine if you're the Vikings. You feel good about your chances. For the Colts, lots going to be made of the decision to bench Anthony Richardson. You want to see some dividends be paid off by that. I don't think tonight was a great representation of what this team is going to be moving forward. You're not going to play against this caliber of defense every week. So this might not have been the best week for you to, completely bench Anthony Richardson for the rest of the season until otherwise notified. But it could have been a shit show for Anthony Richardson had he played. I'd imagine that it would have looked a lot worse had he played tonight. And that you don't want to put that on full display for everybody to see, to make him seem even worse than he already has been this season. So they probably protected him from himself tonight. But the Colts just couldn't get out of their own way. Flacco had a bad interception as they were approaching the red zone. The first possession of the game was going beautifully. They were moving it down the field. They were running. And they had some easy completions for Flacco. They were in rhythm. That first 15 looked like it was ready to get them some points. And then Jonathan Taylor forgets to squeeze the football. Right through the breadbasket. And it's a fumble, and the Vikings recover. And they just couldn't get out of their own way. Every time it felt like they had something good going. Penalty, sack, mistake. And so they were their worst enemy tonight. But even with that said, even with the 2 turnovers, even with Flacco at times, not getting the ball to open receivers, but instead opting for something a little bit further down the field that could have paid off a little bit more instead of taking the easy profit. He wanted the big, money. And sometimes you just got to take the easy profit. It's not flashy. It's the equivalent of putting your money in the bank and, getting a small return on your money instead of putting it in some risky, situation that could double or triple your money, where you could also lose all of it. Right. That was Joe Flacco tonight. It's not sexy to put your money in a bond, right? And let it multiply over 25 years. That's not sexy. But throwing it into double coverage, getting guys lit up, that's not cool either, right? He'll play better. He'll play better because he won't play this defense every week. Jonathan Taylor is the bigger issue, though. He looked like he was dealing with something at the end of this game. If you don't have a healthy Jonathan Taylor, this Colts team can't maximize their offensive potential. he is the key to everything you want to do offensively. The best that the Colts have looked this season was when Jonathan Taylor was healthy and in the lineup. You could argue the best that the past game has looked was against the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite losing that game in a shootout. Joe was throwing it down the field, explosive plays, this, that, and the third. But to me, the most complete game they played offensively this season was against the Steelers. And Jonathan Taylor looked his best that day. Then he got injured, I think, late in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Got stepped on. And Joe Flacco came in relief of Anthony Richardson and looked damn good in that game. And if you're going to look like that, you need JT Money. And he didn't look right by the time we got to the end of this game. So that's something to keep an eye on because, hey, those other dudes are cool. Trey Sermon's cool. He ain't JT Money. And defensively, you know what? I think the Colts might be underrated defensively. I really do. When I watch this defense, they don't have any, household names. They don't have any guys that really get you excited outside of, I'm a big Latu fan. We'll see what he ends up turning into. But I was a big fan of his coming out of UCLA, and I love me some Kenny Moore. I've been a massive fan of Kenny Moore for a very long time, and he's still playing at a very high level. But they got some quality players on their team, man. I really like Grover Stewart. I love DeForest Buckner. Before he got injured, Dio I knew I was gonna forget his last name. We're gonna just call him Dio. I can't think of his Obadangbo or something like that. Odangbo, that's what it is. Dio Odangbo. He's been really good for them. I like him a lot more than I did coming out of Vandy. I was never a Kwity Paye fan. He's turning out to be pretty solid for them. I remember when the linebacker out of Syracuse, what is his damn name? The one that got the pick in the end zone. I remember when he came out, I was like, he's so damn slow. He ain't gonna be able to do it in the NFL. And he started out on special teams and he worked his way up the ladder. And now, he is probably the linchpin of that defense. I think it's a really solid group that they have defensively. It's not a great group, but it's solid. And if they could get more consistency out of their offense with the way that they can play defense at times, I think they are the second best team. Obviously, record-wise, they're the second best team in that division. But literally, I look at them and I say they're the second best team in that division. But they got to get more consistency out of their offense. And that's been a struggle this season, to say the least. But in tonight's game, obviously, they never really got comfortable. Flacco never seemed comfortable. The run game was non-existent, and you can't put Flacco into those situations at this point of his career too many times. There have already been games this year where the run game wasn't a big factor, and Flacco had to do some things, but that's not how you want to live with Joe Flacco as your quarterback at this juncture of his career. He really needs some semblance of a run game to take pressure off of him, and Flacco can still operate out of play action fake extremely well, pushing it down the field vertically. He can still do that with the best of them, but that doesn't exist if there's no run game for the defense to have to respect, to suck up that, those linebackers to go, with those dig routes in behind them, or even, test vertically. You got to get that safety up so you can get that single high look so you can take those shots. That doesn't happen when, at one point, I think they had 14 rushes for 40 yards or something like that. You're talking about less than 3 a pop. You ain't bringing up no safeties. You ain't getting no linebackers to suck up when you, if you living like that, running the football, it's going to be tough to execute. So definitely going to have to shore some of that stuff up, be more consistent there. But ultimately, can't make the mistakes that the Colts made tonight. Can't miss the field goals that Matt Gay missed. Can't have the interception that Joe Flacco threw. Like, I still don't understand what he was trying to accomplish there. Like, Byron Murphy was there the entire time. Don't really know what he was like expecting to happen there. I don't know what he was seeing. Like, he was there. He was always there. Like, he didn't just pop out of nowhere. Like, oh man, Flacco never saw him. No, he's standing right next to the receiver. Like, what are you doing? Right? Can't have the fumble. That was an unforced error, right? On a drive that should have netted you something to start this game off, right? Can't have a crucial 3rd and 4 or 5 and a wide open receiver in the flats and you try to squeeze it into double coverage. Like, that can't happen. And you get your receiver crunched in the process. There's too many, mistakes, unforced errors, et cetera, to win a game on the road against a quality opponent like Minnesota. So, anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go inside the odds. Brought to you by BetUS.
Inside the odds.
So, looking for a new book this season. You've got NFL, you've got college football, college basketball starts this week. You've got NBA, you've got NHL. You got it all. And BetUS has you covered for all of that. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get up to 10% back on your net losses twice a year as long as you're active for a 6-month period. And then here's the big kicker. If you're a new user to BetUS, use the promo code YouTube150 to get you 150% off, or 150% sign-up bonus, on your first deposit of up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. So you see the odds brought to you by BetUS. The number was 6 for Minnesota. And as you can see, they covered the spread, won this game by 8 points. So BetUS, pretty much all over it. Vegas usually knows best, right? The over-under in this game was 47. Obviously, they did not hit that. This game was a lot lower scoring than anybody had imagined it would be. I thought it would hit the over on 47. Not to lie, I thought the Vikings would score, 26, 28, and I thought the Colts would score 22, 24. I thought this was going to be a 30-24, 28-23, 26-22 type game, something in that range, combining right around 50 points. So I thought that total would be over. Stunned that even with the defense that the Vikings play, I thought that we'd see some more points scored tonight. I really did. And there were opportunities, obviously. How many field goals did we have missed tonight? 2 by the Vikings, at least 1 by the Colts. That's another 9 points right there. The total between the two teams was 39, right? 21-13. That's 34 points. So you add another 9 points in there with the missed field goals. That's 43. And then all you would have needed was another touchdown. Well, Darnold threw an interception in the end zone. Flacco threw an interception in, as they were approaching the red zone, right? So obviously there were more opportunities for points to be scored, but turnovers, the Colts were on the move on the opening possession, heading towards the red zone again, and they fumbled the football. So there were more opportunities for points to be scored in this game. And had the mistakes not happened, I think you would have hit the over in this game. But clearly that didn't happen in this game. I do want to look at this real quick. So this is the win total for both teams going into Sunday's play. Again, these odds brought to you by BetUS. So for the Colts, the number is 8.5 wins. Do you right now see this Indianapolis Colts team who is 4-5, haven't had their bye week yet? So through 9 weeks of ball, they're 4-5. Do Do you see them winning 5 more games this season? The number's at 8.5. You see them getting to 9 wins? This group here. Now, keep in mind, they play in the worst division of football, but you also got to take into consideration that they have probably played division games already. Now, I don't know how many, and I'm trying to think. They've already played Jacksonville at Jacksonville. They've already lost that game. They've played Houston twice, so they have no more games against the toughest team in the division. They've been swept. And they already went to Tennessee and beat the Titans. So they only have 2 more games in the division left. Home against Jacksonville, home against Jacksonville, home against Tennessee. So you could go ahead and bake those in, assume that they're going to win those 2 games. That's 6. You see 3 more wins on their schedule? Anywhere? That's the question. Then on the flip side, the Vikings are at 10.5. This is a 6-2 team. They've had their bye week already. 5 more wins is what they need to clear the 10.5 total. Do you see the Vikings winning? I think 11 is a bit too rich for their blood. They strike me as a 10-7 team. What about you? You think they can get to 11-6 in that division? And let's see. They've played Detroit at home, lost that game. They haven't played Chicago at all. They have played Green Bay in Green Bay. They still have Green Bay at home. So they still got 4 games in the division. 2 against Chicago, so 1 at home, 1 on the road. They got Minnesota or Green Bay at home, and they got to go to Detroit. Now, I don't know about you, but the next 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, 2 are against AFC South opponents. So I think it's like Tennessee and Jacksonville. I think it's Jacksonville this upcoming week, and then it's Tennessee, and then it's some other ass team, right? The next 3 weeks before shit gets real, and I think the schedule starts to tighten up a little bit. I mean, that should be 9 wins right there, right? Then they only need to win 2 more. Matter of fact, let's look at their schedule, because I could have sworn the next 3 games you're like, yo, that's a win, that's a win, that's a win. So they got the Jags next week, the Titans after that, and then the Bears. I don't want to shit on the Bears. That's family business. And it's at Chicago. And the Bears are undefeated at home this season, if I'm not mistaken. I think they've won 3 games at home and then 1 over in London. They haven't won on the road yet this season. All their wins have come either in London or at home. So they might be able to take the Vikings in a few weeks at home. We'll see. Then they got the Cardinals, Falcons, Bears again, Seahawks, Packers, and Lions to finish up. They might be able to get 11 out of that, though. You know, they take care of business, but easier said than done. Meanwhile, for Indianapolis, can they get to 8? They got the Bills next, then the Jets, then the Lions, then the Patriots, and the Broncos, the Titans, the Giants, and the Jags. That feels like they could get to 9. It does. Like, again, they got to take care of business. You know, they could beat the Jets, probably won't. They will beat the Patriots. They can beat the Broncos, they probably won't. They will beat the Titans. They should beat the Giants. And they should beat the Jags. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games that they'll probably be favored in the rest of the year. I don't think that they won't be favored against the Bills. They probably won't be favored against the Jets on the road. They won't be favored against the Lions. They'll be favored over the Patriots. They probably won't be favored over the Broncos at home. That'll be a close one, though. But they probably won't be favored over the Broncos in Denver. They'll be favored over the Titans. They'll be favored over the Giants. They'll be favored over the Jags. So they got 4 games that they'll be favored in moving forward out of their final 8 games. So they got a shot. They got a shot. That means they would have to win all of the games that they'll be favored in, and then they'll have to sneak somebody, whether that's a Buffalo, a Detroit. You're probably safer trying to sneak Denver than you are Detroit or Buffalo, but you never know, right? You never know. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Let's get to the comment section. If you're out there, you want your comment read. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we will get to your comment. If you want to ensure that your comment is read, super chats are the way to go about that. Not only do you ensure that we read your comment and react to it on the air, you also jump straight to the front of the line. So with that said, let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. Big shout out to Craig Davies. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Craig some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad, Craig Davies. Jonathan Hankey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Jonathan, writes, oh yeah, Joe Flacco gives us the best chance to win. He really showed everybody that he was the difference maker. Laughing my ass off. See, this was the problem with him playing tonight, because for the fans that are upset that Anthony Richardson was benched, this wasn't the opponent to put Flacco out there for full display to say, hey, look, Flacco's an upgrade. He was going to struggle tonight. Anybody that you put at quarterback was going to struggle against this Vikings defense tonight. They had 10 days off to prepare for the Indianapolis Colts. You knew they were chomping at the bit after losing 2 straight, after starting the season 5-0, losing 2 straight in 5 days. You had to know they were going to come out with their best effort, and they had 10 days to prepare. So it was going to be rough on whoever started. Trust me, Jonathan, it would have looked a lot worse if Anthony Richardson would have started tonight. You would have been singing a different tune. He would have looked awful tonight against that defense. His head would have been spinning with all the different looks. Joe Flacco looked confused, and he's a veteran. So I get it. You're frustrated. You want to see the young fella. Flacco isn't going to, trust me. If you look, you got to understand where your head coach, Shane Steichen, is coming from. And we had this conversation on the podcast. Joe Flacco does give you the best chance to win on a weekly basis. You weren't going to win this game more likely than not with either one of them quarterbacks. You probably won't win the game tonight. But I will say this: if Flacco can't play better than he did tonight, then what's the point of starting him? I get that. That's your mindset coming out of tonight's game. You could have let Anthony Richardson do that. Literally, on the telecast, Chris Collinsworth said, Anthony Richardson's probably thinking, shit, I could have done that, right? He had 7 points at the time when he made that statement. You know, I think the score might have been at the time when he said that, I think the score might have been either 14-7 or 14-10. It was probably 14-7. But whatever the case may be, it was going to be a rough night. It was a rough go of it. Come back to me in a couple of weeks. You got another tough opponent in the Bills next week. You know, so you don't have any easy layups here coming up. In order to have a chance against some of these teams, you need a guy like Flacco out there to give you a real shot. But y'all ain't trying to hear that shit. I get it. I understand. Because Flacco's not your future. Maybe Anthony Richardson isn't either, but he's more likely the future than Flacco is. We know he's not the future for sure. So I get it. But you got to understand where Shane Steichen's coming from. To give you the best shot to win, to give the guys in the locker room the best chance. You got to put your best quarterback out there that gives you that shot, and that's Joe Flacco right now, whether you like it or not. Jonathan Hankey, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, this game should prove that they are better off starting AR next week and beyond. Otherwise, fire everyone. And that's not what this game proved. You played against one of the best defenses in the league. It could have been a lot worse. It would have been a lot worse if Anthony Richardson was out there. You know, it would have been a lot worse because you probably would have turned it over. He probably would have thrown 3 or 4 interceptions tonight. You know, but maybe he would have run it a little bit, you know, too. And he maybe would have caused some problems with his legs. Who's to say? Right? But what we do know is the level of inaccuracy that this man has played with this season is ridiculous. You can't win football games with a guy that can't do the simple stuff correct. And that's hard for any coach to stomach, is when I give you a layup, you got to take the layup. Joe didn't take the layup on that third down. That's Joe's fault. And he's a veteran and he should know better. He should know better. But it's a difference between not taking the layup and missing the layup. It's a big difference. Joe didn't take the layup, meaning he didn't even throw it to the wide open receiver underneath. Richardson takes the layup and misses it. That's hard for me to stomach. It's one thing if you tell me I didn't see that guy versus not only did I see him, I threw it to him, I just missed, and he was wide open. I get it, though. Again, that's a tough position to be in as a fan, because no fan, and I've been there, no fan wants to sit there with a veteran quarterback who you know has no future with your organization whatsoever. Y'all ain't winning shit of substance this year. So exactly what are you benching AR for again? Because we're like, you're probably not going to win the division, but Houston is no world beater, right? They're not going to run away with this thing. If you would have won tonight, you would have been a game. Granted, you got swept by them. You'd have been a game out of first place. Like, the division isn't out of reach. And when you look around at the AFC, I've talked about this already, the wild card ain't crazy out there. But, Denver got their ass whooped today. You play Denver at some point later on in the season, so you have something to say about whether, they get a wild card or potentially you get a wild card. Like, you may not be able to win a Super Bowl. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. But if you can make the playoffs, when you're a young team like Indianapolis is, with a coach like Shane Steichen, who is this is his third season in Indy, if you can make the playoffs, it changes everything in that building. That's what they're trying to do. So I get it. I understand. I get where you're coming from. I've been there before, where I'm watching Case Keenum start games and I'm like, can we just put Dwayne Haskins in, please? Even if he sucks, it's better to watch him suck than to watch Case Keenum suck. I get it. I get it. Abel Ambrosio, my guy, Double A. Been a member for 24 months, 2-year Annie. Right, Lou, 7-2, doesn't it feel so damn good? Salute to you. Salute to you. Doesn't it feel good to be 7-2? Man, it feels good. How sweet it is. Soak it up. We're going to do a lot of that tomorrow, where we bask in our 7-2 start to the season, continue to be managers running the show in this NFC East, this wild, wacky division. It's a 2-team race. We got to hunker down and get ready to go to war, because we see what it is. Eagles aren't going away. Cowboys aren't here to stay. And the Giants, well, they're just the Giants. Feels good to not have to worry about none of that. We just got to worry about us. We take care of what we need to take care of. We will be the NFC East division champions this year. And I love that there's still doubt out there about us. I love that too. X Factor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Cyber didn't kick the dirt today. Thank goodness. And he really hasn't kicked the dirt. Right? He really hasn't. He's only done that a couple of times, but you're not supposed to do that ever as a kicker, right? That's the thing, is like, he really is. He's been great. But there was that one time at band camp, right? And that's the thing with Cyber, where you're like, yo, this man has changed the game for us at the kicking position. I got really no complaints. But there was that one time against the Ravens. But there was that one time against the Bears, right? Where you go, we'd prefer you not do that. But love me some Austin Seibert, man. He's been outstanding for us. Beats the alternative that we had kicking for us early in the season, if you know what I mean. So, John Wynn, he's upset about his Seahawks. Says Seahawks are a sorry ass team right now, and Geno Smith is playing awful. When do I get to see some Sam Howell time? This is pathetic. You just got to be patient. Got to be patient. I blame your coach for the loss today, but we'll talk about that when we get to slate skating on the podcast. But I blame your coach. I'll just say this: he should have taken a field goal in overtime. Yep, easy to be greedy in that situation. Want to go for the touchdown and the win. If you are a defensive-minded coach and you trust your defense, and your defense have been playing really well, and up until that point of the game, you had only given up, I think, 13 points defensively because 7 of the 20 points the Rams had came off of a pick six in the end zone. If you trust your defense, kick the field goal, get a stop, win the game 23-20. I get it. If we can't get a yard on 2 consecutive plays, then guess what? We don't deserve to win. I say that all the time. But if you trust your defense, get the points in overtime. Clearly, he trusted his offense more than he trusted his defense, and it backfired on him. And then you probably couple that with the defense's worst possession of the game. But that's a momentum thing, which is why I go all the way back to you should have kicked the field goal. Because there is nothing more momentous swinging than getting stopped. Like, turnovers are dope, and they do a lot of things for you. But you want a real momentum shift and swing, get stopped on a 4th down in short yardage. That really hypes up the squad. Turnovers are dope. They cool. They're awesome. They flip field position. A lot of things can happen on a turnover. But a turnover on downs, when you couldn't get a yard, that's huge. Black Al B said, Skull, one game at a time, on to the next. Hell yeah. That's what it's all about in this league. Find a way to stack up dubs like bricks in that left-hand column and just keep on going. And at the end of the season, we will sort out all the left-hand column bricks and see if you got enough to qualify for some bonus ball. And so keep winning to keep pace with the Lions, because right now the Lions look like the king of the North. Went into Green Bay, stomped the mud hole in them boys. Went into your house, got you for one too. So you need to stay connected to them. They got a tough schedule. They might slip and fall at some point, and you need to be there to be able to be the biggest beneficiaries of that. Metaphor says, this game put me to sleep. I bet it did. Metaphor said, Son got a game ball pregame from Jaden at end zone wall. Didn't sign it, but Revo did after the game. I'll take it. That's dope. That's really dope. That's a memory he should never forget. HTTR Carson writes, is it weird that I'm getting used to us being good now? I kind of miss the wins that would get us from 4 to 5 to 5 and 5. LOL. Just kidding, but it's different for sure. Hashtag HTTC. No, you should be getting used to this. This is the new norm. So adjust your thinking, adjust the way you feel. Don't ever lose the joy of winning games in this league and what that means, though. Like, I've sensed a number of fans in the fan base becoming jaded with winning, and when it doesn't look a certain way, like we're not the Chiefs. Never get bored with winning, no matter what it looks like. We haven't won 3 Super Bowls. You don't get to pick what your victories look like. Just win, right? We're so early in the process. You should be happy for any win, no matter how it looks. You get a lot further into the process, and then you can start setting expectations on certain, games and what it's supposed to look like. And if it doesn't, yeah, we might have a problem. We're nowhere near that point to where we start looking. And to be honest with you, they've taken care of a lot of that. We said we needed to beat up Carolina. We did. We said we needed to beat up Cleveland. We did. We didn't think we were going to beat up Arizona. We did. Arizona's over 500. They're a good ball club. We beat the brakes off of them. Maybe that's the Detroit Lions effect. Who knows? But I said all of that to say this. I was happy with the win today, and there were some fans that weren't happy with how we won. They were happy we won, but they weren't happy how we won. I would have loved to have blown out the Giants, scored more points, all of that, all of the above. But we won. And don't feel weird. And don't let and you shouldn't feel weird about us being good. That should be your new norm. Rewire your brain. This is who we are now. This is who we are now. This is our new identity. Fresh start. This is what we do. This is how we get down. All right. Let's see. Sarah X says, as a Vikings fan, I don't expect much this season with Darnold. He was supposed to be our bridge QB, facts. However far we go is house money with him. I'm excited for McCarthy next season. I was excited for McCarthy after seeing him in that first preseason game. I didn't know how long it was going to take him to be, the starter, because I think y'all were going to roll with Darnold to start the season. It would not have shocked me if we would have gotten through that second preseason game. McCarthy goes out there and kills it again, and they just say, you know what? Here go the keys, young fella. You start in week 1. I think it was going to take him like 3 or 4 weeks to get the nod, but like Drake May, right? Took him a little while, but they finally said, all right, enough of this. Let's just throw the young fella out there and see what he's got. I'm looking forward to seeing that too. This is definitely a house money season, which is why you have to consider. A lot of Commanders fans think that we got head coach of the year locked up, and that's in the bag too. And I'm like, nah, you can't discount what Kevin O'Connell's doing. They doing this with Sam Darnold, man. With Sam effing Darnold. Who thought the Vikings would be any good this season? So he's just as much in that head coach of the year conversation as Dan Quinn is. Metaphor says, screw the P word. I'm talking crazy. The S word. I told y'all, have at it. You're not out of bounds if you're using the SB. If you're starting to throw the S word around, you're not out of bounds. You're not out of bounds. Go ahead. He says, I'm talking crazy. It's the S word season. If we get a cornerback this week, we'll see what happens. Big Money Sonny says, we outside, Lou. What up, Big Money Sonny? We up top. You already know. You already know. You know what it is. We outside, we up top, we all of that. You know what it is. All right. So that's the last comment for me. So we'll go ahead and get out of here. want to give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. If you're looking for a new book, BetUS is where you need to be. For new users, got a promo code for you, YouTube150. Head over to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150 to get you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000. Your next two deposits up to 125% sign-up bonus when you use the promo code YouTube150. So, Vikings get the win, snap their 2-game skid, get back to their winning ways. 21-13 over the Indianapolis Colts. Improved to 6-2 on the season. Stay a game behind the red-hot Detroit Lions, who have won 6 in a row. And so the Vikings stay within arm's length of the Lions in that ultra-competitive NFC North division. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts miss a golden opportunity to climb within a game of first place of the Houston Texans, who lost on Thursday Night Football to the New York Jets. Instead of being able to climb within a game and stay within arm's reach of the Texans, they've now fallen back 2 games in that division. Not to mention the Texans have the season sweep over the Colts as well. So the Colts dropped to under 500 at 4-5. A lot of questions after this game. Are they doing the right thing? Did they bench Anthony Richardson for no reason? Can Joe Flacco be the guy that really breathes life into this offense? Didn't look that way in this game, but this was not a great game to gauge that off of, because the defense that the Vikings play is so good that you knew they were going to make Joe Flacco or whomever was at quarterback look somewhat pedestrian tonight. I think you'll get a better sense of that moving forward. Even against Buffalo, I think you can move the football, have some success. Flacco will look a lot better in that game than he did tonight. But ultimately, what it's going to boil down to is, can Joe Flacco make winning plays at crucial moments? Because as we've already learned, the Colts have played every game except for the one tonight in a 1-score vacuum. Okay? They're going to play close games. They don't have a massive margin for error because they're not that good. Right? Can Joe Flacco do something that Anthony Richardson couldn't do, and that's make winning plays in crucial moments of the game? He's been able to do that at times this season. He did it against Tennessee. He did it against Pittsburgh, right? As Joe Flacco. Wasn't able to do it tonight. He gave him a chance against Jacksonville. It was the defense's fault in that game, not Joe Flacco and the offense's fault. Couldn't do it tonight. But there will be more opportunities with the way this team plays. Can Joe Flacco make some winning plays when they need them the most? We will see. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Metaphor says, what's the BetUS odds for the Commanders winning the chip? I don't know, but I'll grab them for you. I'll find out what they are and bring them to your doorstep. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Have a good one. Take care. God bless. Good night.